Hello, folks. We're on air, and it's 2:35 Central Time, 3:35 Eastern Time. I had talked to, I'm being joined by William Kepley of North Carolina. I'm here in Louisiana, and I had talked to William, and we had talked for a while, and we both were interested in legacy brands. And that's basically his approach to these beer reviews, and that's always been my approach. It never was so much the warfare in the beer world or the liquor world of, oh, this brand is that, and these guys are bad, and blah. I mean, it's interesting, I suppose, to talk about it, but my interest always was in just looking at each brand, the history of it, especially the old historic brands, and I think that's where we kind of connected on that.
Yeah, I think so.
Am I correct?
The historical context of these brands and everything that surrounds them, it's not just the drinking, it's the history of it, how it relates to other products in the marketplace, comparisons. It's the whole scope of it, I guess, what you would call an enthusiast, and that's the way I approach it.
And before we get off on this Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 brand, the Tennessee Sour Mash whiskey, uh-oh, I made a little mistake. Okay, I hit the wrong button. Let me hit the right button. Before we get off on that, you're talking about legacy brands. Today, I passed by right outside New Orleans in St. Rose, Louisiana. There's a Indian motorcycles. It's called Victory Motorcycles, and they sell a brand called Indian. You familiar with that?
Victory is going out of business, but the Indian will continue. That's the reason they wanted to focus on the Indian marquee, so they discontinued Victory, which had a hard time breaking in past the Harley-Davidson mystique. Basically trying to appeal to the same customer base, but they think with Indian, which has a much more richer history in this country as an American motorcycle, they think they're more positioned to compete against Harley-Davidson. So they're going to focus their efforts on that and discontinue the Victory.
Okay, because my knowledge of it is essentially nil, but they have a big billboard out there on the Interstate 10, although the motorcycle shop, the store, the dealership is on US Highway 61, but it says Victory of New Orleans, and then it shows Indian, America's oldest motorcycle brand. That's what it says on the sign. Now, that's what the sign says. Whether that's true, I do not know.
They had the Indian movie, was very popular, and they do have a rich history.
Okay.
Victory, functionally, they were good bikes, but they just had a tough time competing with 100 years of Harley-Davidson history.
Now, what about Indian? Is that a decent brand?
I think the Indians are positioned to make a pretty significant. If you look at the Indian bikes, they're true to the retro styling, but yet technically and functionally, they perform like a modern 2016 motorcycle. Okay. The fit and finish on them is very good. There had been a couple of attempts to revive the brand in the past, but there were half-hearted efforts. But once Polaris became involved, they had the R&D and the cash and the money to put up to give it a full effort.
But it hasn't.
I'm not saying I don't know what their market share will be, but it's to crack that Harley bubble is very difficult.
And so Indian has not been continuously produced.
No, they have not.
Okay.
And like I said, at one time, one of their attempts to revive itself was here in North Carolina. They occupied the old Chris Craft boat factory down in Kings Mountain, North Carolina, near Charlotte. And they were using a knockoff engine, which was an aftermarket product. And they looked sort of cobbled together. They didn't look that great. They didn't perform that well. And, each time it sort of died off after a few years. You can only go with the name so long. People want to look at the product too.
They don't want to just have the name.
But now, like I said, with the might of Polaris, when they stepped in, they said, we're going to do this right or we're not going to do it at all.
Good.
And the bikes functionally are very good. They look great. The fit, like I said, the fit and finish is excellent. But, time will tell how much of an inroad they can make when one company like Harley dominates so much. When you're buying a Harley-Davidson, you're buying a Mystique. You're buying into a club. It's not just the bike itself. It's the whole package. And that's a tough nut to crack.
Yeah, you're right. Well, getting back to this now, They said this is the 100th anniversary. Now, they at Mathern's they had 100 anniversary gift boxes. Okay, here's the gift box, and it talks about 1866 to 2016 100th anniversary. Jack Daniel establishes whiskey distillery. Now, I read one source that said that this particular one that we're drinking, number 7, may not have been around since 1875. But regardless, the company has been on the, in business since 66. Now, there was that prohibition problem for 14 years, so it wasn't produced then, but it may have been produced in other countries, perhaps under license as a Tennessee style whiskey, perhaps, something like that.
This is definitely an iconic brand any way you slice it. I remember Michael Anthony, the bass player for Van Halen, had a Jack Daniels bass. The body of the bass guitar was the Jack Daniels logo. And on their video, Panama, he goes flying across the stage, suspended with a wire, of course, and he's playing the Jack Daniels bass guitar. So, they have a lot of inroads into pop culture, and I mean, it's an iconic brand any way you look at it.
And I noticed a lot of photos from the 1972 Rolling Stones tour for the name escaped me. It's a double album.
Exile on Main Street.
Yeah, Exile on Main Street. I'm embarrassed. I have the album, but if you look at a lot of photos, there's always a bottle of Jack Daniels conspicuous in the photos. Now, I think that could not be some sort of accident. There must have been some sort of remuneration, like make sure you've got this in the photos and you'll be well taken care of, especially with a band with that sort of pull.
Yeah, I'm sure that wasn't by coincidence or accident.
But they probably enjoy drinking it, but still, why not get paid to drink it, right?
That's right. Have your cake and eat it too. That is one situation where you can do that.
Right, because I'm sure Keith Richards and his gang took care of the consumption problem, and I'm sure the road crew helped out quite a bit.
Yeah.
Now, you did some research on, and here's a Jimmy Bedford glass. I bought this at a yard sale. It's a nice glass, and I think he retired. There's a new master distiller. You did some research on the process. But before we go to that process, I did some reading about this, and they were saying that even though it's called Tennessee Sour Mash Straight Whiskey, it's really simply just bourbon. But they're so what's the word? Concerned about it, the Tennessee name being out there, that you don't go to Tennessee and say that.
That's right. They're prideful about that fact that it's not Kentucky bourbon, but the charcoal, they add an additional step, the charcoal mellowing process, where drip by drip, drop by drop, it passes through 10 feet of packed charcoal before it drops into the charred oak barrels. So that extra process allows a smoothness, a mellowing to the flavor, and that's really they think it makes it a singular difference from the Kentucky bourbon. I mean, these whiskey websites are fascinating just to read. I just enjoy it.
Yeah, a 10-foot slab of sugar maple
packed charcoal. 10 feet of packed charcoal. It passes through drop by drop before falling into the charred oak barrels.
And it's sugar maple.
But they say that extra charcoal melting process is really what gives it its singular taste and separates it from just like you would say generic bourbon, so to speak.
Yeah, right. But in a legal sense, it is bourbon. Like they were talking about the NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. Jack Daniels didn't bring this up, and the Canadian importing rules and regulations, they say when it's coming into Canada or into Mexico, they consider it a bourbon whiskey. And I believe the U.S. Tax and Trade Bureau would look at it that way as well. But oh well, no big tragedy. But I understand the state of Tennessee wants to protect their image also. We have no reason to tear that down. But that is interesting, the 10-foot packed slab of sugar maple charcoal.
It says, and I may emphasize drop by drop. It just drips through there. But this is a Jack Daniel's is a Brown-Forman brand.
Right.
It's there's a lot of conglomeration in the whiskey industry, of spirits as much as there is in beer.
Yeah, and wine as well.
These are huge companies.
And that sets off a firestorm oftentimes when one company buys out another, and people will say, "Oh, it's never going to be the same. They're going to ruin it." But I always wondered what would be the incentive to ruin it. You didn't buy it so you could lose money. I don't understand that. I mean, I understand sometimes they do cut corners and companies will do that, but I don't understand why that would be a good idea unless it was a brand that was struggling anyway. But you wouldn't mess with Jack Daniel's.
But you take a whiskey like Southern Comfort. The deal was over $500 million, $543 million when Sazerac purchased, one you're very familiar with, purchased Southern Comfort about a year ago, I think.
Yeah, that was all in the newspapers here.
And to think and that's nothing special, Southern Comfort. If that commands that much money, there's a lot of, it just sort of emphasizes the scope of the spirits industry.
Right. So if a brand like Southern Comfort, which is sort of more like into the cheaper brands,
value brand,
if that's going to go for $500 million, imagine what Jack Daniel's would sell for.
It's amazing.
It would be as much as a pro football team.
And
let's see if anybody's making sensible comments. Some people like to make stupid comments because that's the world we live in. Dan Samuel says, "Am I really seeing this? Trying Jack Daniel's, say it ain't so, haha." Now, I guess he means either he thinks it's terrible and he can't believe we're doing it, or he's impressed that we're doing it. So I don't follow what he's saying. I've actually never tried Jack Daniel's until today. Pirate and Hum says, "I'm currently having a tumbler of Evan Williams to go along with this examination. I haven't had Jack Daniel's yet, but I've had their single barrel Silver Select 100 proof, which was quite good." Well, that's a big step up there. White Bread says, "What's your opinion on Fireball whiskey?" I don't know because I've never tried it. So I can't say that I have any opinion, except that I see it everywhere. It must be popular. Now, I was looking on Proof 66, which is a kind of like the Beer Advocate or rate beer of liquor. And I was trying to read all the reviews, but I ran out of time. I'll try to go back and read all the reviews back to January 2016. They were mixed reviews. Some people said, "Oh, it's pretty good." Other people described it as, and I did a solo review that I'll post one day coming up. They said it was rough around the edges. They said that in their opinion, they didn't find it was any better than Evan Williams or Jim Beam or Benchmark or what's the other one, Early Times, but that it had the name recognition to be able to command a higher price relative to the quality, sort of like Corona Extra in beer or Budweiser, and the same thing in wine. Like maybe the quality is no better than the close competitors, but it's got the name, so they can charge. Well, I bought this 750 milliliter bottle for $21.99 at Mathern's. It was actually $1 cheaper than Walmart, and came in that gift box. The Benchmark would be $8.99 or $9.99 for the same bottle. So if all the flavors and the quality tends to be virtually even, then you know what you got to do when you're shopping, right?
Each person has to make that decision, for any purchase. For some people, there's a point of diminished returns to where the additional price doesn't override the factor, the quality aspect to it. And each person has to make that decision, what their prohibitive price point is. I mean, it's all individual.
Yeah, and in my case, I would probably want to save the money if I'm getting comparable quality. You said it's about $26 a bottle where you live, and it's
27, and out the door with taxes, you're talking about almost $29.
Yeah, so
North Carolina, state-controlled, state-run ABC stores. The only sheriff in town.
About $7, $6 or $7 more per bottle than here. Yeah, that's not good. But I figured, oh well, $21.99. It's a pretty well regarded in some camps or most camps item. Now, if you bring it to a party, people might be happy about it. If you brought, say, like Early Times or Evan Williams to a party because you wanted to save money, they might complain, oh, what, you're being cheap. But in a blind taste test, perhaps they wouldn't even be able to tell the difference.
Yeah, it's some people drink with their eyes more than others. And to some, that name means a lot. That's added value.
Right.
I'm drinking this. I'm drinking, you know, it's in products in every category. They have an aura, a mystique about them that some people are willing to pay a premium.
Right. And that
there's
label,
others who are hard-nosed people. They want bang for the buck, maximum value.
right.
And every penny counts. So, you know, each person has to make their own decision for themselves.
So some people, it's more important what's inside the bottle or can relative to the price. And for other people, it's the label that counts more than what's inside the bottle, which is fine. It's their money. Buy what you want.
Yeah, no one is right. The other one's wrong.
No.
It's all subjective, you know, and that's, you know, whatever floats your boat is fine with me. I don't care really. It's if they like it, that's fine.
Right. We're just exploring the brands, which is the enjoyment part of it. Enjoying the where we get.
I wanted to try this, but if I was going to the store tomorrow to buy, I'd probably look at Evan Williams first. I've read that it's a very good value brand. It sort of fits in with my philosophy about a lot of things, you know, like in the beer, the value segment. Evan Williams might be sort of like the Milwaukee's best lager, something like that, which I think is a tremendous value. I mean, the more of those I drank, of that 12-pack I got for a hangout, I said, I'm really liking this.
Yeah. And
it's a sweet spot for me on a lot of levels. And, you know,
a lot of people that roll their eyes at it, I've asked them, have you tried it? Oh, well, they had to admit, no. Oh, they haven't tried it. But they just know it's terrible. Anyway, you ready to get on to this now?
Yeah, even in North Carolina, you get a brown bag with a mini bottle. So,
yeah.
It's
mine got a brown bag too. You got the small bottle. I thought about getting the small bottles, but the price for those was not so competitive.
Oh, it's not good, but
yeah, it was $12.99 for a 375 milliliter bottle, and then it was like $7.99 for the 200 milliliter. I said, well, I may as well just go ahead and buy the 750, the standard. And I noticed at Walmart it was dead out. They didn't have any 750 milliliter bottles. And you know the traffic Walmart gets. So that's telling me that this is an extremely popular product if it's just going to fly off the shelf like that.
I saw in North Carolina on the 375 bottles, you can get two different. One design was the replica square bottle, and the other one was more like the standard bottle. They had the same price.
This is the square one, right?
Yeah. And they had the replica square bottle, and then the other one was more like just a traditional shade.
Round.
There was one number difference on in North Carolina, they each have a code numbers. And you go in the store and say, I want 21-116, and they'll just pull it off the shelf and give it to you, you know, because everything is on a website, the prices and every, you know, and that's actually how I saw this. So I just went in and gave them the item number, and they got it for me.
Yeah, because you have a very strict control over it.
It's very controlled. Yeah.
Alcohol there, and I just can go in any store and purchase it.
Yeah, it's hard when you say you can get liquor at Walmart. It's hard for me to play. You know, if I saw Walmart liquor here, I'd probably fall over. But
you can go into Walmart and there's liquor on the shelf, and I've said this because it's a true story. You could be shopping and tell your little 5-year-old, "Go get me some of that Captain Morgan and bring it to this basket, please, baby." And they'll go get it and bring it and put it, and no one will think anything of it. But that's not the case everywhere. Pirate and Hum says, one interesting thing about, let's go to a few more comments, then we'll start tasting it. Are you ever going to try to match a good beer with some, okay, I'll delete that. I got to read these before I say them.
yeah.
What is your perspective on the buzz between liquor and the difference of malt or beer in general? I've noticed dramatic impact. The alcohol effect I find on liquor is more it gives you a little better warning sign. Whereas beer, you can sit there and say, "Yep, you're right," and then it's fully in play, especially with lager. So it can really get you messed up, and it doesn't take a lot of lager either. So I think that any alcoholic beverages should be drunk with trepidation and care. Sadly, many people don't bring that factor in. Pardon Hum says, one interesting thing about Evan Williams is in relation to Jack Daniels is that it says on the bottle that it's charcoal filtered, but whether it's filtered pre-barrel or pre-bottle, who knows? But it's still called bourbon. Oh, yeah, it's a good point. I don't know. We're just getting into this. We don't know a lot. We might be a lot of things, William and myself, but one thing we're not is whiskey experts.
No, there's a lot of layers of onion to be peeled off before I'm a whiskey connoisseur, but I enjoy the process of it.
Right. You don't get experience without getting experience.
And that's the fun when you learn something new about it. To me, it is because, and with the internet and access to all the information, you can really learn a whole lot. And by using if you target your searches and stuff, you can usually find what you're looking for right away. I found that with beer. I've learned a lot for the amount of time that I've spent because I've targeted and only looked at the things I was really interested in.
Right. Instead of jumping.
Let the search engine do the work for you. I've seen people that will comment about a question, and they could have looked it up themselves in 15 seconds and found the answer.
Right. I get that sometimes.
And because it is the information is out there.
Right. Well, you can see this sort of what is the color, like caramel color, copper color? No, not copper. Maybe like a water pipe. Caramel. It's got some alcohol legs, but they're not super prominent. Now, I've talked to a few people I've gone on that tour there in Lynchburg, Tennessee, and they always say it's fabulous. I've never heard one person say don't go on that tour. They always brag on how wonderful it is.
Well, that's it. This cap was tight as a drum.
Huh.
I got it off, but it was.
Yeah, mine came right off.
This little thing here was this.
Yep.
It's pretty light, really.
Now, I found the Jim Beam was much lighter.
Really?
It was more pale. It was paler, but it had a more intricate flavor, I thought. Because like I said, I tried this a little bit 30 minutes before we got on the air. I didn't say the Jim Beam had a better flavor. I say more intricate, not necessarily better. Had to get a little water here.
I got this at Walmart.
Yeah, that little glass.
The little Anchor Hocking tasting glass. This has a richer aroma than the Kentucky Gentleman.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I was not able to acquire a Kentucky Gentleman. At least the company gave me some background on it when I called about it. Otherwise, I would have purchased it. I'm going to stand up. I'm tired of sitting.
I'll take a sip of it and see.
I was doing the same thing, like trying to think on it while I was.
It's
the aroma is pretty bold, but in no way off-putting.
no, not it. To me, as a novice, it's more intense, the flavor, than the Kentucky Gentleman,
Which is a blended whiskey.
and although they're both the same 80 proof, it just has a more intense everything, sensory, the taste, everything.
Yeah.
No, it gave my nostrils a pretty good workout. You know, when you're sort of trying to savor it. But one thing I know that to me this has, one thing about the Kentucky Gentleman was that when I sniff it, I think sawmill. The first thing comes here in North Carolina with the history of furniture industries. I've smelled a lot of wood.
Keep talking. Okay.
And that was the first.
Yeah, you see, when I did that Jim Beam, it had an aroma almost like green wood, like the wood was not completely dry, which was strange. And then when I took the taste, the sip, I said it had a mildew taste. Now I know that cannot be correct, but I said that was the first thing that came to mind, and I said it's certainly probably a misapprehension on my part, but it was notable. This one here. This one, I find it has a sort of a very sweet caramel aroma with a strong oak type thing. And they said that sugar, maple, charcoal, and I think I'm picking up something. There's something in the aroma that is like a sweet. You hate to say syrup, but it's almost a candy, caramelized sugar. It's not
that was the word that came. I was thinking caramel.
Yeah,
but it is a more just a robust than the and the Kentucky Gentleman is a 51-49 blend. It's not like the 80-20, so it may be a cut above. It may be not the bottom shelf, but the
next above bottom. It. Yeah, next to the bottom. Oh yeah. Let me see about the taste again. There's a little alcohol in the aroma. I've picked that up. The flavor is definite. Without any doubt, there's a wood note. Okay. I don't know what kind. Is it the oak barrels? Is it the sugar maple? This I do not know. It's very noticeable. It's sweet, but it's not cloyingly sweet. And we're drinking it straight, and most people are going to drink this with Coca-Cola, which to me would be too much sugar, because Coca-Cola is using that high fructose corn syrup, unless you get the Mexican Coca-Cola, which is cane sugar. Yeah. I would prefer that. But I think it would be too much of a sugar attack. This, I'm fine with drinking it neat. Having it straight, I'm very pleased with it. Now, I could see adding ice cubes, well, perhaps, but I think as a standalone, it does hold its own.
The wood or the char aspect of this is more mature than like the Kentucky Gentleman, which I said was like sawmill. When I say sawmill, like chips that's laying on the floor when you walk into a sawmill. Where this has a more mature, like aged aroma to the wood.
Yeah, and I'm picking up none of that green wood or that mildew, and mildew is a type of mold, so I'm not picking up any kind of moldiness. But you know, moldiness has an audience. What do people like to eat? Moldy cheeses, you know, like your blue cheese, and also there is a place for that type of thing. But the body on this is within the medium range, I suppose. It's a smooth finish. I don't see the rough around the edges part. I don't know. I want to see what they're saying on proof 66. Let me see. Here's the last ones from 20. 16, going backwards, January 2016. This guy, Cane Creek, says he only gives it a 2 out of 5. He says, just as well weighing on Jack. It's no more than a 2-star, mostly because of price. Okay, so he's bringing that into play. That's something you do have to look at if you don't have unlimited money.
That's definitely a legitimate point made.
And it looks like this company here, they throw out the bad reviews where people just start talking about horse urine and all that. If you don't make a sensible review, you're just not going to get posted, it looks like, because I've never read any of those type of things. He said, I judged this whiskey against bourbons also, because it is a bourbon, just what we were saying, or I was saying, just that the marketing department has decided let's leave well enough alone. Well, way overpriced. For $26, you can buy some pretty good bourbon. The other Tennessee whiskey, George Dickel, is a better whiskey if that's all you're comparing it to. He says, there's a flavor about Jack Daniels that has some chocolate and cocoa in it. It's in the nose also, so if I absolutely have to have a mixed drink, I would probably have a Jack and Coke. They just go together, go good together. It doesn't change the 2-star, though. So 2 people voted up his review, gave him a thumbs up. And then this guy named Erzengel, he's done 51 reviews on this website. He gives it a 2.0 here. Also, he says, nice, smooth, woody nose. The whiskey starts rough with hints of wood and hints of smooth vanilla. A bit too rough and one-dimensional. Not much depth. Fast disappearing aftertaste. It's nice as a mixer, but on its own, only okay for the price. He's saying 2.3 then. And now scroll up and see if I can find any high ratings. Here's Andy. He gives it a 4.0. A guy from Louisiana gives it a 2.5. Now this guy, just last month, named Edith, or Lady Edith Magoo, she gives it a 4.4. She said, it's good, I like it a lot, but I can also understand some of the hate. Now this is a strange review. Head straight from the bottle. I could see it being a bit harsh. The key is drink it cold while we're drinking it. We're not drinking it cold. Not on ice, but actually refrigerated. That evens it out a lot. Well, she didn't go into some kind of histrionics, at least. I think if you go into histrionics on Proof 66, your review won't post and your account won't continue.
They probably have certain triggers that they look at, and if they don't deem it legitimate, it's not going to get on. So
we don't see that too much in the beer review.
No, if horse piss was one of those triggers, a lot of the reviews would never make it online.
So anyway,
ubiquitous horse piss.
And I don't think anyone making that comment has ever experienced that. But it's just something to say. Like you said to me last night offline, you said it scores points within the buddy system. Give each other a high five.
Yeah, that BMC line, but it's better than BMC. It's like cut and paste. Yeah. That's done so often that, well, it might be horse blank, but it's better than BMC. So, you know,
I guess the word for that kind of talk is trite.
The ultimate backhanded compliment, but
yeah.
But I enjoy, I have no reference point to speak to how well this is. I would never claim to do that. I enjoy drinking it. That's all I can, and as I drink more of this, along, you have to start somewhere.
Right. Now,
that's all I'm doing, for someone that may be a novice, they're thinking they might like to try whiskey.
Yeah. Now, as we wrap up, which to me is a very interesting video to me. And I think it is a quality product. From what I'm tasting right here straight, which is what 99% of the drinkers do not do, I really don't notice any detriments, any demerits. I'm not picking up this rough around the edges business. It seems pretty darn smooth to me, although it's a little bold, it's a little sweet, but not cloying. I'm looking at it as pretty much all good and no bad. It is a little pricey relative to the other premium bourbons and Tennessee whiskeys, but you're paying for that cachet. But I think it was worth it to do this one bottle purchase at least. And if somebody asked me, is it worth trying? I would say without hesitation, absolutely worth it. And that's all I have to say about it. And I'm going to turn it over to you. And I think you had wanted to add a little something here at the end.
Yeah, a lot of times it's a matter of semantics. One person's smooth might be another person's bland. One person's harsh might be another person's bold or robust. You know, I have more references in the beer community because I've drank more different beers now over the past 8 or 9 months. So you have to take that into consideration too. Just try it yourself, and you know, you can determine whether you like it or not. But I'm glad I tried it. You know, and it's
do you come down on the like it or dislike it side?
I like it, but like I say, I'm speaking in isolation because I don't have many reference points. I mean,
right, there's nothing to compare it to if you're only comparing it to Kentucky Gentleman.
That's right, and that's all I can. I would never claim to do anything more than that. But I enjoy it. To me, it's a hobby. It's an, you know, I like, you know, I enjoy it. So, and I'm just going to go from there, and I'll try something else.
Right. Now, somebody told me there's no way you could say this is as good as such and such and make a list. I would say, I don't know, because I haven't tried anything on your list. So I cannot say this is good relative to anything else except for the little handful of whiskeys I've tried. But going in like you, as a novice, it's nice. And now let's read the last comments. The interesting thing I personally find about Jack Daniel's is that it doesn't do well in cocktails, in my opinion. There's Lynchburg lemonade, but Jack is best on its own. Yeah, there's a whole list of cocktails on their website. Scott says also, I really never see any cocktails with Jack other than Jack and Coke, and I don't know if it's the sweetness, but cocktails are much better with Woodford or Maker's Mark over Jack. Maker's. Oh, well, I've never tried either one of those. And then Whitebread says, what is your go-to beer and what year during age 20 and 21? What year? I don't have a go-to beer, in fact. Secondly, at age 21 to 25, I did not drink beer at all. So I didn't start drinking beer till I was 27 and almost 28. John Sharon says, I'm watching. Going good, guys. Cheers. Thanks, John. And you can make a comment on what you think about Jack Daniels. Pirate and Hum says, Gentleman Jack is charcoal filtered pre-barrel as well after coming out of the barrel, which makes it lighter in color compared with the regular Jack Daniels. Okay. And he also says there's a video on YouTube where the master distiller of Jack Daniels describes the different Jack Daniels brands and differences between them. Oh, I'm gonna have to watch that because I'd love to see something about that Jack Daniels green label. That's sort of like the mysterious one. They don't even list it in their portfolio, but they talk about it in their Q&A frequently asked questions section.
So they have hidden brands in whiskey too.
That's right. And the one that people search everywhere for is the green label, apparently.
I wasn't aware that they had a green label. But
look at their portfolio, you would not be aware of it. But if you look deep into the website, under frequently asked questions, there's a little discussion where a customer is asking them, what about the green label? And then they go into some detail about it. But I've talked to people down in Louisiana, and they said, they looked at me with a bad eye, like I was playing a game with them, like, what are you talking about, a green label? I said, I don't make jokes about these types of things, and they exist, and I can back up what I'm saying.
I know the Evan Williams has a green and a black label. I saw those in the store.
Yeah, those are relatively common.
Yeah.
Okay, so you wanted to do a little something here at the end as we wrap it up. So
I've got the
now I've got Kentucky Dale. Let me just give it a sniff. I'm not gonna drink it, but you see the aroma is so much more muted. It's like all I'm smelling here is just a slight bit of alcohol and some plastic bottle. But with the Jack Daniels, I'm smelling a little richer bouquet. What do you expect? This stuff here is 80-20. It's 80% grain neutral spirits, which doesn't even really have an aroma. So, and this is $2 a bottle. So I might do a blind taste test anyway, just for the heck of it.
Much more muted, the aroma. It's like if it was a knob on here, it would be. It's just turned down about 50%. it is much more muted. I'll take a sip of this one.
Okay.
KG, not Kevin Garnett. This is KG Kentucky Gentleman.
An extremely old brand, by the way.
It is. To me, this just tastes like sort of a toned down version.
Yeah.
Picking up some little vanilla, caramel, and the wood, but it's just, it doesn't have quite the punch that the Jack Daniels did.
So it's sort of like everything you always wanted in Jack Daniels, but a whole lot less.
Now, the key question comes in. This was $4.45 for a 375 milliliter. Versus in North Carolina, $14.45, so a $10 premium on a 375 milliliter bottle. That's the key question.
So that's where you have to evaluate your trade-off.
This is less than a third the price of the Jack Daniels, and this is to me is very drinkable. This is not horse piss, to use a beer term. So that would be a question, each person would have to ask.
You would have to evaluate that.
I would probably go the middle ground maybe and look at something like an Evan Williams if I was, pulling out my money again. I'm glad I tried the Jack Daniels. Like I said, it's an iconic brand, and I'm glad I did. But after tasting these two, side by side in a relatively short period of time, I would probably look at something maybe in the middle ground between these two.
Yeah.
For the maximum value, the bang for the buck, so to speak.
Yeah, I did the benchmark, and that was so fabulous. It makes me tempted to buy the standard size bottle of the benchmark, because that had a lot of character, and it could probably go toe to toe with this Jack Daniels, even though it's $8.99 as opposed to $21.99. But I haven't done a blind taste test, so I'm only making an assumption. I can't say for sure, but I noticed that with these liquors, there's a very noticeable difference brand per brand in the flavors. With beers, they get kind of mixed up sometimes, and it's really hard to tell. It's so difficult to tell them apart. If you got comparable,
Yeah, I found out when I was drinking a lot of the AALs, sort of like a project I had for a long time, and I guess it's still ongoing, that there was never one beer that it was like I had the epiphany, oh, this is the one I want, this is it. But conversely, they were all pretty good. Nothing was bad, but the differences were very subtle. There's a phrase, a difference without a distinction without a difference. 6 of one, half dozen of another, to use a phrase. And I found that to be the case with a lot of the beers. And but I think maybe with the whiskey lines, there may be some more differences as you taste more, that that more flavors sort of develop or blossom as you taste it more.
More pronounced.
I'm hoping I can sort of discover that myself as I get a little bit more into it.
Right, more pronounced differences.
Yeah.
I have noticed that with brandy, because I did a lot of different brandies so far, and not a single one tasted like the other one. So they were definitely not the same old thing. Oh well, this was very interesting, and it might be a few months down the road before we do another, because I got so much backstock. I have so much backlog now.
The back catalog
it's incredible.
growing daily.
Yeah, it's just too much. I've got to get this stuff drunk down, because it starts to get, and I had other people tell me this, it gets crazy. They're into all these whiskeys. It gets crazy. Yeah, the beer thing gets crazy too. But I tried to back away from that, not beer reviews. I tried to back away from this idea that I have to try everything, and there's this frenzy and, oh, try this, try. I said, there's no point to that. Okay, last comments. White Bread says, what are the difference in vodka and whiskey? This is not the place to ask that question. Now, Travis Harper says, Jack Daniels is best on the rocks. Why cover that great taste with soda? I can't argue with that. I agree. However, my Evan Williams is, he meant the right. However, Evan Williams is my drink of choice, just as good as Jack Daniels. Yeah, I'm really intrigued to try the Evan Williams. Yes.
I can get that in a mini.
I might be able to get it in a mini. Oh, well, that's that, people. So we did it. We drank some Jack Daniels, one of the most historic liquor brands on the planet. No doubt about that. So you've probably seen Jack Daniels whiskey in more movies than any other liquor, I bet you.
And go check out the Panama video with Michael Anthony soaring across the stage, playing his Jack Daniels bass guitar.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't remember that incident specifically, but I certainly remember the video and the song and the album, which I own. I was watching an episode of I was watching a scene from The Godfather Part 2, where after there was the attempt on Michael Corleone's life at his home in in Nevada. They're trying to talk about what to do, and he's talking to Tom Hayden, his assistant, and he served him he poured him a drink, and I was thinking, what is that? And I looked real carefully. I stopped the video. I said, oh, Courvoisier.
Product placement.
Probably not set there on accident.
Yeah, probably.
Especially since that was a follow-up of a blockbuster film. So I bet people were lining up to get their products placed in that thing. All right. Thanks, people.